And welcome back, everybody, to the eighth episode of the 412 Press Coverage Podcast here. We had a great, pretty crazy, wild weekend for super wild card games in the playoffs of the NFL, man. Um, First off, we had kind of a good game for at least one half, I guess. And the Niners and the Seahawks. The Niners obviously took care of business. And then the Jaguars with one of the best playoff comebacks statistically of all time and the nightcap of Saturday. And then the Bengals, although it was kind of scary, took care of business against Miami. The Giants pulled off the upset against the Vikings, or maybe it wasn't an upset. I guess we'll talk about it. And then the Bengals finished off the Ravens, knocked them out of the playoffs, beat them for the second consecutive week. And we await the result of the Cowboys Buccaneers that we'll be playing in a little bit here. So, J Rod, let's start with the 49ers versus the Seahawks game. The Seahawks were in it for the first half, which is longer than I think most people expected. But what was your biggest takeaway from that game? Just what were you thinking watching that?
I think my biggest takeaway from that game is if the 49ers get a real quarterback, it's going to be trouble. Um, Not saying Brock Purdy's not good, but he's not there yet to the point where I'm like, oh, 49ers is a real scary team. They're going to go all the way. The 49ers are a scary team, but they'd be a lot scarier with a guy like A-Rod back there, or even just a seasoned vet. They'd be scary with Kirk Cousins back there. Like they just need a scary vet that knows what he's doing in these moments in the playoffs. And I feel like that team can win a Super Bowl. But they don't have that vet, and I feel like it's a little downplaying to them.
Yeah, before we get into the game, I will agree with that. I wasn't too impressed with Brock Purdy, and I kind of told you that I'm automatically a Brock Purdy hater because him and my guy Kenny were in the same draft class, and people like to compare the two. But that's beside the point. I think I agree that Brock Purdy wasn't super impressive in terms of all the plays. I think he made one or two like wow, holy cow, like type of throws where like great throwing guys open, big plays. But other than that, it was yards after the catch, or he was throwing to people who were wide open down the field. And I couldn't find the yards after the catch stat, but I know a lot of plays that the Niners had like it's getting Debo Samuel, getting into Christian McCaffrey in the screens, or Brandon Ayuk, or even George Kittle, and then running down the field for big yardage. But you hear the debate, obviously, like Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo. What are the Niners going to do after the season's over? And even though I still believe they have some football left to be played, I agree that you know Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo. Would you say they have a similar skill set in terms of the way they play and in terms of how they get things done offensively?
I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is a bad quarterback. Um, I think he's better than most, but I do believe that they have a similar way of play, similar.
Similar styles, like they're not super
Yeah,
flashy. They're not gonna make the super duper play with their legs. They're not gonna, you know what I'm saying? So the thing is I think where the Niners would have been better off, and I would pick the Niners to win the Super Bowl if Jimmy Garoppolo was their quarterback for the simple fact that he's a vet and he's done it before. Brock Purdy is a rookie, that's undeniable, and rookies make mistakes. It happens. It's a way of life. It's not a bad thing. It's not like a terrible thing on Brock Purdy's part, but he's a rookie and mistakes are going to happen. You saw he missed some throws against Seattle, particularly early. He kind of made some plays that maybe a seasoned vet wouldn't. And so I think that the Niners would definitely be better off with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback for the rest of the postseason for the simple fact that he's just a vet and he's less likely to kind of make those mistakes or kind of, miss some of those throws. I mean, Purdy didn't throw any interceptions, but, Seattle, I mean, obviously they're an NFL defense, but they're not as good as some of the defenses they might face, like if they
the
face the Eagles
Eagles.
defense or even the Cowboys defense, who hasn't been good recently, but at times has been, really good. So I think that Purdy was fine, but that's kind of where the line kind of draws at. I don't think Purdy would ever be greater than that, than like just all right, solid guy that gets it done. Kind of, he's not going to make superstar plays.
And like I said, there's nothing against Brock Purdy. He's in the NFL. He's an NFL quarterback, but it all comes down to one thing: he's doing what backups are supposed to do.
Yeah,
Like just like when everybody was saying with the Cowboys, "Oh, Cooper Rush should be starting." Cooper Rush came in and did what a backup is supposed to do.
yeah, for sure.
This is not, Brock Purdy's team.
Mm-mm.
Yes, it's amazing that he's doing what he's doing. Being Mr. Irrelevant, definitely. But it's just not his team. And
Well,
I don't see them going far in the playoffs with him at quarterback.
yeah, I honestly don't see them beating Philadelphia for that. I think they might. I think they'll win the divisional round, but it's kind of like you said. Like Trey Lance is a boom or bust guy, but he's boom. Emphasize on that. Could you imagine like a superstar make plays with his feet, make unbelievable throws, quarterback with the offense that the Niners have? Imagine like Trey Lance actually like didn't get hurt this season and he turned into somewhat of what they expected him to be. I mean, then we could be talking about the Niners having the best offense and the best defense literally in the same season and on the way to I mean, probably the Super Bowl. I would pick them even if they had Trey Lance. If he had played this whole season, I'd pick them. I think Purdy is, and like we said, it's not nothing he hasn't done yet, but it's not like he's been bad or he's been terrible. Like he's been, I mean, he's a seventh round pick. I think he's done better than anybody would have expected. But at the end of the day, when you play these real defenses, like super, very, very good defenses, is it going to be enough? Which is the question.
And I think that's the biggest thing about it all. I think if he was a first round draft pick, everybody would say he's underperforming or, they expect more. But since
Yeah.
he was a seventh round draft pick, no one cares how he plays.
Well, if he was a first round pick, people will be saying what we're saying. Oh, he's just throwing to the 49ers weapons with Kyle Shanahan. People are kind of
Exactly.
ignoring that because of the fact that he was a seven round pick. But even in the game, like it just in the first half, particularly, obviously San Francisco, ran away with it in the second. But I mean, Seattle was up 17-16, and that wasn't because they were getting lucky. I mean, you kind of saw Seattle's defense where I I think I think that the 49ers were out coached in the first half because there were plays where Brock Purdy, where we talk about, extending the play and having those kind of unscripted or just coming up with plays to make, I guess. There were a lot of times where Seattle's defense kind of blew up, whether it was a screen or a certain player they were trying to get the ball to. Seattle really covered it well. And Brock Purdy kind of struggled with that where he wouldn't make the play or he would miss the throw. I know he missed Debo Samuel on one and I think he missed somebody in the end zone, but I was honestly, for the first half at least, I was really impressed with Seattle. They had that deep ball to DK Metcalf, which it was crazy. They said DK's longest catch of the season was 13 yards. And I mean, DK had a great game this weekend.
Yeah, he
And the
had a,
nine,
he had like 10 receptions, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns.
yeah,
I mean, he
I mean,
he had a wonderful game.
he had a great game. And I think the thing is, San Francisco is way better than Seattle. And whenever you're not only outmatched, but also on the road, your margin for error is very small. It's this big. You cannot make any you cannot afford any mistakes. Whether it's you could take one or two, but other than that, you can't
Unless you're Trevor Lawrence, of course.
unless you're
You can
Trevor
make four
Lawrence. But
mistakes.
well, I'm saying in terms of like Seattle and San Francisco, the gap between the teams are like way wider
Ridiculous.
than that. So whenever the
Yeah.
gap is that big, you can't make mistakes. And in the second half, I thought Seattle really shot themselves in the foot, especially in terms of like um, penalties that don't have to happen, unforced errors like false start. And I get it was loud, whatever, false start, delay a game, stuff like that. Like you can't be doing that, especially in crucial times of the game.
Well, and
And
like I said, though, it's not like Brock Purdy had a bad game.
no,
And it's not like even Seattle, like Geno Smith. I didn't think he played a bad game. I think, of course, Geno Smith could have did a lot more to help them win.
yeah. Well, I mean, San Francisco is way better than Seattle. And just over time, that started to show more and more. Seattle can only hang with them for so long before San Francisco kind of took off because San Francisco, the players around their quarterback, they're just that good. So it was only a matter of time before San Francisco was really going to pull away. And I mean, in the second half, they just scored touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. And Seattle really didn't have an answer because they didn't score any. They scored a touchdown at the end of the game, but the game was over by then. There was a few minutes left in the fourth quarter. So for the
Yeah.
important times of the second half, Seattle was basically shut out. And yeah, I just think San Francisco, it was just a matter of time before they were going to, show that
I
they were
mean,
the
like
better.
I said, their team is so fully stacked.
Their
I don't think
defense,
they
bro, is
compare.
so good.
I don't think they compare to some of the teams over on the AFC. I don't think they compare to the Bills. I don't
Yeah.
even think they compare to like the Bengals.
Well, we'll see
And
what
that's
happens when they
only
play a high-powered
because
offense.
yeah, and you know what I mean? I don't think there's any high-powered NFC offenses. Like there's the Eagles, and then that's really like NFC. NFC has no one. Like
Yeah, I
no
would agree.
one.
I think the Eagles have really good offense,
That's
but
it though. On the NFC side, that's it.
do they compare to Patrick
Nope.
Mahomes and the Chiefs or Josh Allen or even
Nope.
even Joe Burrow and the
Nope.
Bengals? No. So you're
And
right.
that's
Well,
all
I
I'm
mean,
saying. You
if
know?
San Francisco makes it out, the Super Bowl is what I would be most concerned about. I could see San Francisco maybe if assuming Philly wins against the Giants walking in to Philadelphia and winning, but the Super Bowl will be the real challenge, especially if you have to go up against, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Josh Allen. Patrick Mahomes, last or 2 years ago when he was in the Super Bowl, his O line was think about it, both of the AFC teams that lost the last two Super Bowls, it was mainly because their O line was their O line was terrible. So, well, we've seen Pat Mahomes with a good O line and with the offensive system that he's in, yeah, I don't we're not sure if the Niners can get past them.
Yeah, and you just know like the Niners team, their team is really good. Like there's no doubt,
Yeah.
offense they got Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell,
George Kittle.
George Kittle. They got it all on
They have Trent
offense.
Williams, one of the best left tackle. I mean, just
Yeah,
all
just
over the field. The
all over the
Niners have
place. They got
superstar
great
players.
teams, but it's just that quarterback is the weakest link, and I think it's going to come back to bite them sooner or later.
We have to see him in the trenches. It's great whenever everything's going good, but whenever if the Niners find themselves in a close game and we need Brock Purdy to go down and make a game-winning play or a game-winning drive, that's yet to be seen.
Yeah, and the only reason I want the Giants to win this weekend. I want to go to the game. I want to see them play, but I don't know how I will want. I don't know if I want to see the Giants go against the 49ers.
Yeah,
I
that'd be a
mean,
tough.
if
You
we
guys play
beat
the Eagles
Philly,
regardless.
yeah, I mean, if we beat Philly, maybe I give us the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
We fucking, maybe we deserve to go further.
Yeah.
But I just, I don't know. The 49ers aren't frauds by any means, but
No. I still
I
think
don't think
they'll
Brock
make it to
Purdy's
the
the answer.
championship game. I still think they'll make it to the championship and play a good game, but we'll see.
We will see. And then the next game, uh, on that very Saturday, we had probably my favorite game of the weekend, to be honest. I mean, so far,
Mhm.
we got the Jags and the Chargers. Big matchup I was looking forward to. Trevor Lawrence versus one of my like not one of my favorite quarterbacks, but one of my favorite young guys. Um, ooh, I just
Herbert.
got I just got freaking Justin Herbert. So we got Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. Two of my favorite guys in the league, and
Mhm.
I think it was a great matchup,
Yeah.
just overall. But I mean, I want you to tell me how you feel about this, but I think the Chargers were 10 times better than the Jags. Overall, team wise, defensive wise, offensive wise, I don't think the Jags even stacked up against the Chargers, not one bit in
Yeah.
any at like it was just ridiculous. I mean,
Well,
look at their defense. The Chargers defense is crazy.
Lil Mac, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, to name a
Superstars
few. Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, so here's what I'll say. I'll say I wish that game kind of lived up to the hype in terms of even though it was a 1-point game and it was very exciting, it was kind of like the Chargers were extremely better. And I wouldn't even say the Chargers were that much better than them in the first half because it was really just Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the first interception was a tip ball. I mean,
What?
stuff like that happens. The other three interceptions, Trevor Lawrence is throwing it right to the guys. Like it's not like any. It's not. I'm saying the Chargers didn't do anything special, is what I'm
I
saying. And
mean, they didn't do that
even when the
special, but four turnovers, like you
yeah,
get
no, no,
four
no,
takeaways. Come
you're right for
on.
sure. But even when they scored touchdowns, I think two of their touchdown drives started within the 20-yard line. So what I'm saying is, I kind of wish the game was more of a. It was a tight neck and neck battle all the way through, and the Jags pulled out with the 1 point victory rather than the Chargers are winning by 27 points in the first half, and then the Jaguars outscored them 31-3 for the rest of the game. Is kind of what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
and by no means will I go and put this game on, their defense. Their defense did their job.
I
I don't
mean,
care. Their
yeah,
defense did their job.
the defense had four takeovers and or takeaways, and yeah, I mean the offense you
Had
can't go
five.
cold.
They had five.
Oh yeah, that's right. They have five takeaways, and the offense you can't go cold in the second half, and
Not
I
just
keep
go cold, but did they score a
they
full
scored
length of
3
field? Did
points.
they go a
They
full
scored
length of
3
field?
points. They scored 3 points, and they had a missed field goal, which was a pretty bad miss. It was from 40 yards, so that who knows how that might have changed the game. But I just I think you heard the stat that they ran the ball like 8 times or something like that in the second half. I mean, you have to do
Mm-mm.
more to try to run. Obviously, you don't want to play back, but when you're winning by so many points, it's kind of like 27 points, and I think the Jaguars they scored that touchdown at the end of the first half, which I was sitting there watching the game. I was thinking, this is the Chargers need to be worried about giving up that TD there because now I I I don't remember if the Jags no the Chargers started the second half with the ball, but what I kind of thought came to be where the Jags scored a touchdown at the end of the first half and then get a stop defensively. Jags score again, and then they had all the momentum on their side for the rest of the game. And obviously missing a field goal, you can't really put that on one thing or the other than sometimes the kicker just misses. But I think the kind of the luck and the momentum was all on Jacksonville's side by the second half because of that late touchdown, which kind of gave them some hope and kind of gave them this idea like, hey, like we can get this done, like we can do this, like we're good. We just have to relax and chip away. And then stuff started to kind of go their way.
You could see the momentum shifting. Just like you said, though, it was crazy to watch it live. You couldn't see at the end of the first half they get that touchdown. They come out, they score again. It was just
And
momentum after momentum after momentum.
yes.
It would just flew their way.
Mhm.
And pressure is how diamonds are made. And I feel like Justin Herbert, he let everyone down. To be
At
totally
the end of the
honest, I
day,
mean,
they didn't do enough. Like it's one thing to talk about. Like I think all phases of the game, the Chargers failed because kicker misses a field goal. That's special teams. You can say what you want, but the defense still, at the end of the day, they still gave up 31 points in what a quarter and or 2 quarters in a couple seconds. They still gave up 31 points, which is it's a lot. And the offense, yeah, only 3 points in the second half. I don't care that he missed a field goal. There's so many you could have maybe made a play to get a first down and get closer. You maybe could have scored a touchdown on that drive. And even if they do kick that field goal, it's still only 6 points. 6 points is inexcusable. And I mean, just the Jaguars flat out dominated in the second half. It was it was unbelievable.
I
It was
mean,
like
Austin
everything went their
Eckler,
way.
your best guy on offense, he had 13 carries. That's it. He had 13 carries and
In
two
a game
catches.
where you're winning by 27 points and you only run the ball 13, you need to get the run game involved.
I
Even if you're
mean,
getting
no, no,
runs,
no, that's different because they ran the ball 23
I know
times, but
that's still
it
not
was just
enough.
the fact,
23
yeah,
times is still not enough,
and it's just the
especially
fact
considering the
that,
circumstances.
yeah, it's just the fact that you know that's your best guy, and you give him the ball 15 times in the
Yeah.
playoffs.
What did they throw to him?
Yeah, twice.
Oh, so he only had 15 touches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mike Williams was out there, number one wide receiver. But I just think
Well, not number one, but
he's
okay.
a big part of their offense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but when you have Austin Eckler, Gerald Everett, Keenan Allen, what else do you need? That you have Justin Herbert as your quarterback, who, like I
Yeah.
said, is one of my favorite young guys, and he just like under pressure diamonds are made.
Mhm.
Under pressure diamonds are made, and he broke. he cracked under pressure, and I don't feel like he did enough to help his team win. That's
How much?
this is where you become, the legend, the
Yeah.
guy that everyone's like, oh, he did this. I remember watching this. He
Yeah.
just didn't do it for me.
If
And
you're
I
winning
mean,
27-0, you have to close that out by any means necessary. So how much of it do you put on the coach?
how much of it? Huh?
Because I mean, the
I mean,
ju-
you can put
the
all
he
of it
didn't
on
make
the
good
coach.
enough. He didn't make good enough adjustments at the. I know they say if it's broke, don't fix it, but you kind of have to think you have to adjust to Jaguars' potential adjustments. And I mean, Doug Peterson clearly adjusted because they scored 24 points in the second half. But just how much do you put on just Staley in general?
I mean, you could always say, hey, it was the coach, it was this, it was that. But like at the end of the day, it just was like nothing was clicking. Like in that second half, it's like everything turned off.
Yeah,
Like everything. Defense, offense, special team, like everything just turned off for the Chargers and nothing happened. You had 3 points the whole second, the whole 30 minutes. You had 3 points
yeah. I
the whole
mean,
30 minutes.
and
Even
not
if you
only
would
did
have
you,
got, even if you got one touchdown, you would have won this game. You know what I mean? Even if you would
yeah,
have went out and got one touchdown.
no, yeah, I definitely know what you mean, and I don't know. It's just it's tough. I feel like the way Jacksonville scored, like I just feel like it was kind of easy, and they kind of
It
just
was
like
too easy.
I think they
They
kind of
just
had
drove
whatever
down the
they
field.
want.
Yeah, they drove down the field, did whatever they wanted. I mean, Travis Etienne had 100 yards. Is Travis Etienne better than Austin Eckler? Hell no. How did
No.
he get 100 yards against a stacked, way better defense and one of the best running backs in the league, Austin Eckler, only got 35 yards?
Well, and even think
Are
you
you-
talk about the 100 yards. Well, how many of those yards came on that 4th and 1 play? Which once again is what we talk about coaching. I mean, I feel like you're right. People can talk about blaming the Chargers coach all they want, but I think at the end of the day, I mean that play was one of the most brilliant play calls I think I've ever seen. Even better than the Matt Canada jet sweep that he called on Christmas Eve against the Raiders. That 4th and 1 play to Travis Etienne, I mean, that was just beautiful.
Yeah, that was it was a really good. It was a really
So
good.
unexpected.
It was a really good steal out of Matt Canada's book. I tell you that much.
No, they didn't get that
But
from Matt Canada.
no, yeah, it
Matt
was.
Canada would never.
Trust me, I like seeing them two go head to head. But like I said, I wanted more from Justin Herbert, and that's really all. Like that's all I wanted. I just wanted more from him.
I just wanted the game to be more neck and neck throughout rather than just kind of like one team dominates one half, the other team dominates the next, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, like he threw 4 interceptions. Like you don't throw 4 interceptions and win games, and it's just I don't know. Like you as an offense you have to pick it up.
A +5 turnover margin and losing is unbelievable. I don't think people realize how like actually crazy that is. To
That means your defense did everything they were supposed
five
to do,
turnovers
and
and
you let them down.
yeah,
Your defense did everything you wanted them to do, you could possibly ask for, and you let them down. It was like man, Derwin James at the end of the game, I felt so bad for him.
yeah,
He interviewed, and I'm just like, man, you shouldn't even be interviewing right now. Like you
yeah,
should be on your way home, relaxing, ready for the next game. But
yeah.
instead, your offense let you down. They didn't do nothing for you, and you got to go home.
Well,
And the cra- the,
and
the worst part about this is Jacksonville is going to go play next week and get absolutely terrorized. And that's just what I don't like. That's what I don't want to see.
I
I'd much
agree.
rather have seen the Chargers play
I
than
agree. I
see
think
Jacksonville play next week.
the Chargers would have been a much better game versus the Chiefs. I 100%
Yeah,
agree
I
with you
mean
on
they're
that.
going to go get absolutely terrorized, and
Yeah.
it's going to be so stupid.
Yeah, but Justin Herbert is still young. The Chargers are still relatively, kind of a young team, I guess you could say up and coming, but so you can just hope they'll learn from this and get better and maybe they'll use this to fuel, a fire inside them and come back next year with redemption on their mind. That's all you can hope for.
That's all you can hope for, man.
Yeah.
All right, so next we got the good old Sunday fun day. I mean, I don't really have much to say about the Dolphins and Bills. I feel like it went exactly the way we expected it to go, besides
Mhm.
the fact that the game was close.
Yeah.
No one expected them to win that game.
I
Let's
think
be completely honest.
Buffalo scoring 34 was expected, but Miami scoring 31, I think, is what was kind of like shocking.
How they
Obviously.
scored 31, I have zero clue.
Yeah.
I remember they put up their quarterbacks stats on the screen, and at a point in time, he was 17. It was like the end of the game. He was 17 for 43. He ended the
Yeah.
game 18 for 45.
Yeah.
Dude, he had a horrible game. Like one of the worst I ever seen. Not one of the worst I ever seen, but like no, it was probably one of the worst I ever seen.
It held Miami back when you have a quarterback who is such a liability. And I mean, think about it though. Miami in the first half, when you talk about having a guy, especially a quarterback like that, he kind of needs all the help that he can get. Like you got the offense around him needs to be so stellar in order to kind of let him help you. And Miami had a couple drops in the first half. I know Jalen Waddle had a drop. I'm pretty sure Tyreek Hill had a drop. Like there were a couple big plays that Miami wasn't able to capitalize on because their players couldn't hold on to the ball in the first half. And who knows what type of difference that would have made. But I don't think Thompson was like terrible. But like you said, then again, him being incapable of doing certain things is just kind of what ultimately held Miami back in the end. Where, Miami, I don't recall if they had the ball at the end. I think they did. They had a ball towards the end of the game, down by 3. But in that situation, you kind of knew they weren't going to score because of the fact that Skylar Thompson was their quarterback, and it just wasn't going to happen.
Just like I said over there with now, Brock Purdy's a lot better than Skylar Thompson, don't get me wrong. But just like I said
Well,
over there with the
it's not
49ers,
that
I just
Brock
don't
Purdy's
see it.
better than Skylar Thompson. I just feel like first of all, the teams they were playing against. I mean, the Niners were
Oh
playing
yeah.
against Seattle. And also, I just think the Niners system is. I mean, yeah, if you put Brock Purdy in Miami, I think he might be better than Thompson. But anyway, keep going.
If you put Brock Purdy in a Miami uniform on Sunday, they probably win that game.
Hmm,
They
interesting. Yeah.
probably win that game. And I mean, I'll say that with confidence because dude, going 18 for 45, come on. Like that's ridiculous.
Well,
He had 2 interceptions,
yeah,
and
a
they were
lot of
only that close because their defense scored.
yeah. I mean, the defense got the touchdown, and Josh Allen also threw interceptions at key times in the second quarter, which kind of it
Yeah.
reminds me of old. You know how people sometimes compare Josh Allen to like a young Ben Roethlisberger, like because like the way he like just a cannon and he can like avoid sacks and stuff like that. It kind of reminded me of old Ben Roethlisberger, where just as you thought the Bills were about to take over the game and really put them away, he just throws an interception, which allows the team to kind of get back into it. So when he throws that first interception to Miami, that wasn't detrimental, but then he throws the second one in the second half, and then the Miami player returns it to like the 19 or 20-yard line, and then they're instantly in scoring range. And that's how I think what was the score 20-17 at half. That's how that happens is you make whenever you turn the ball over and you allow teams to quickly get back into the game. That's how it happens. It's turnovers, costly, timely turnovers.
And I mean, as we always say in the playoffs, you can't make big mistakes like that, and he has to control that. Like he
Yeah,
can't go to the Super Bowl and win if he does stuff like that.
that will be in like we mentioned, remember, like if the Bills play the 49ers and we talked about Brock Purdy playing against better defenses, well, if you give Brock Purdy the ball in midfield or even before, then it's going to kind of make it easier on. So I agree. The only like Miami had like 2 solid drives on offense. That's it. 2 drives where they scored touchdowns on their own, started a reasonable field position.
I mean,
But
and let's
Miami's
not let's not
Miami is
sugarcoat it too. Miami dropped the ball like
yeah.
nobody's
No,
business.
no, that's what I said. Like especially early in the first half, they had a few drops which would have been costly, but Miami was only in that game at the end because of the turnovers, because of the
Yeah,
fumble, and because of the
yeah.
2. That's the only reason why Miami even has a shot. And you're right. Remember what I told you earlier about Seattle and San Francisco about the margin of error? So when you're Buffalo and you're playing against Miami and you're way better than them, you can afford to make plays like that. You can afford to have a scoop and score against you and throw 2 interceptions. But whenever you play against a more evenly matched team like the Niners or like Kansas City or like Buffalo or key turnovers like that can truly cost you the game. And even though it won't cost you against Miami, it will cost you against a better team. And you're right. I mean, I'm not really worried about the Bills because I think Josh Allen can clean that up. But if there was a reason to be worried about them, it would be because of that.
Yeah, and I mean it was just stupid turnovers. Like That was all. I mean, like I said, everyone there was no way Miami was winning. I don't care what anyone said, but
I
you
mean, they
know,
made it close at the end. It was an exciting ending, and that's all you can ask for, right? I mean,
oh yeah. I
exciting
mean,
finish.
exciting finish, but we all knew at the end of the day, Miami had no chance.
Yeah, we knew Buffalo was gonna win. Like if Miami would have won, they would have been one of the. I think it might have been the biggest upset in NFL history if Miami wins that
All right, and next we can talk about my personal favorites, the New York Giants. The first playoff win I think since
It's the
what?
Super Bowl. I remember
Since
that. I
the Super
remember
Bowl.
watching that game. I
It was the
remember
first.
I remember watching that game, and I vividly I don't know about you, but I vividly remember the play where I think it was Amir Abdullah when he got the first down and he sat down into the end zone because he was trying to. Do you remember that?
No,
You don't remember that, bro? You're a
but that
Giants
was
fan. You
like
don't remember
10
that?
years ago.
So?
I don't care about 10 years ago. I care
Oh
about
wow,
now.
you are a bandwagon. I forgot. All right, my fault. But no, the Giants beat the Vikings. Let me ask you this: was this game an upset? Because even though people kind of knew the Vikings weren't for real, the Giants hadn't necessarily came into the playoffs on a hot streak. So would you consider this
I
an
mean,
upset?
I wouldn't really consider it upset. I mean, I kind of,
I know people were
this is what
expecting the
I
Giants to win
expected.
too.
I expected the Giants to win this game. I mean, I didn't expect Daniel Jones to be as good as he was. I mean, he had 379 total yards.
Daniel Jones played a superb game, but I don't
He
think
did.
he played a great game. But I think my observation from that, and you could tell me what you think. I think Daniel Jones is very clearly very much a one read and scramble guy. If his first read is there, he'll hit it. But if it's
Yeah.
not, and it showed in the stats. I mean, if
I
if
mean,
if his first
17
read
carries
wasn't there,
for
and
17 carries
this
for a non-running quarterback. I just
yeah,
don't like. Come on, dude.
no,
You
he's
know
a
dang
running
well.
quarterback. He is a running
Yeah.
quarterback.
And this is what I say when defense really matters against teams because the Vikings had no defense.
The
And if the
Vikings defense
Vikings
is
had a defense,
terrible. I mean,
if the
they just
Vikings
got
had a
picked
defense,
apart.
the Giants would have got demolished. Like it wouldn't have even been close. The Vikings just didn't have a defense.
Yeah,
Like
you guys
and
picked them apart.
and yeah, don't get me wrong. I think if we play like that, we can probably go to the NFC Championship game. And I'm gonna say that because they had it working on all cylinders, nothing messing up, no interceptions.
Yeah,
Just
no,
everything
no
was
fumbles.
working, everything was fine. That's a football game you want to play if you want to win.
Yeah.
But like I said, you don't want to have Daniel Jones carry the ball 17 times in the game.
Well, like I said, he's a one read and done guy. If his first read isn't there, he's just gonna scramble. I
He's
mean,
going to
he
pull
did that
off,
like
and
all game.
he's
He had what?
not.
He had 18 attempts.
Yeah, he has 17 carries, and he's not a running quarterback. Like, let's get that out of everyone's head. Yes,
You
he's
don't think
really
he's a
good with
running
his legs.
quarterback?
He's really good with his legs, but he's not.
I thought
He's
we were
not
calling
Lamar
him the white
Jackson.
Lamar Jackson.
He's
I
not.
thought that
Yeah,
no.
yeah, exactly. But he's not Lamar Jackson. Let's get
Yeah,
that. Let's get that totally straight. Is that
yeah.
if the Giants' offense was set up the same way that the Ravens' offense was, it
Mhm.
wouldn't work.
No, you're right. Well, and I will say, if you mentioned against Philly, if Daniel Jones can play a perfect game, which by all measures that was a perfect game, excuse me, by him, if the Giants can play a perfect game and their defense can s- not allow Philadelphia to make big plays and cause a couple turnovers, then yes, the Giants most certainly have a chance. I mean, they definitely have a chance. And
I
even
mean,
you talk about the last time they won the Super Bowl, that playoff run. Who do they play in the divisional round?
once again,
They played the
who
15 and
remembers the
they
losers?
played the 15-1 Green Bay Packers, and the Giants walked in there and beat them. I'm sure nobody gave them a chance, but it's kind of like you said, if they play a perfect style of football, then they absolutely would have a chance against the Eagles. Because the
The
Eagles
only
have
losers I
remember
remember that Lisa.
the Eagles have lost, what was it, 2 out of 3 coming into the playoffs? I know it was without Hurts, and I know Hurts is coming back, but I think take that into account.
Yeah, the only loser I remember for that year is Tom Brady. That's the only loser I remember.
Look, man, I was just trying to add some context. That's all. You don't got to be like
But
that. I was just trying to add some context.
yeah, the Giants. I think if we play for perfect football, we can go forward. But I also think our defense is the weak point.
Yeah.
I think our defense needs to tighten up. We could easily shut them Vikings down. Packers did it, so the Giants can do it.
Yeah,
That's
well,
all I gotta say.
remember what I told you before the game. I said if they shut down Justin Jefferson this season, when Justin Jefferson has been taken away, the Vikings have struggled. I'll losing
Just
40-3
like
to the
yeah, well,
Giants
just like with the Packers,
and getting beat on
they
by the
shut
Packers.
down Justin Jefferson,
They
and they did nothing.
Justin Jefferson had 47. He had 7 catches for like 47 yards, which by all for Justin Jefferson is a bad game. I mean, it's solid numbers,
Hmm.
but it's a bad game. The only issue is in the mix of shutting down Justin Jefferson, they let TJ Hawkinson cook, and TJ Hawkinson is a great tight end and a great player. But
And the interruptions.
sorry. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, 3, 2, 1. And TJ Hawkinson is a great tight end by all measures, but the thing they're gonna have to do against Philly is if you take away AJ Brown, you know, you
You
can't
also
let
have to
Dallas
cover.
Goddard. You
Yeah,
can't
you
let
got to
Dallas
cover.
Goddard or Devontae Smith. You can't let them pick up the pieces. Like TJ Hawkinson is a good player by any means, but is he 11
Well,
catches for
not
129 yards
not
good?
just that. Let's talk about that. That's the second time they let him do that. Because the other game he went off for 130 yards.
Yeah.
So the tight end spot is obviously their weakness when they
Oh
take
yeah.
away their number one wide receiver. You take
And
away their
bro,
number one wide receiver, and they just let so many yards go to the tight ends. It's ridiculous.
and Hawkinson wasn't just getting catches, he was getting big, like big third down. Can obviously other than the fourth down one, which I mean, but Hawkinson was getting big plays on third down, third and long, and he really, I mean, what Kirk had 31 completions and 11 to them for Hawkinson. I mean, he really was the number one player in that offense, and the Giants kind of let him. He kind of freed up in that defense. So
Yeah,
will
I
the
mean,
question is
shit.
will they be able to stop the other players on the Eagles?
Kirk Cousins had a no one talked about it. But Kirk Cousins only missed 8 passes the whole night.
This game
He had a
was
good
not on Kirk
game.
Cousins. People
No,
will blame Kirk Cousins, but this was not on Kirk Cousins as much as it was on the Vikings defense for sure. Because I mean, the Giants just picked them apart.
yeah, just absolutely destroyed them. And I don't feel like they got Dalvin Cook involved enough. He's Dalvin Cook, give him the ball. Uh, but yeah, I mean, they did shut down their number one target, and they found a new number one target, and it worked for them. It's just the defense totally let them down.
Yeah,
And I
no, the
mean,
defense. Yeah, and that's been their weak point all season was their defense. That's part of the reason why they were 11-0 in one score games. Well, you can look at that in two ways. One, you could be like, oh, they come up with big time wins, but then the others, every game is close.
I think that's
And
a horrible stat, just for
yeah,
the simple fact, like, oh yeah, you would like the Giants. They're 8-1 in like one score games, but guess what? We only had 9 wins the whole season.
yeah,
So you're telling me every game besides one was one score games.
a bounce one way or the other, and the
You're going to
Vikings. What do
lose.
they finish? 13-4. Well, a bounce one way or the other, they're 9-8, or they're 10-7, or even worse. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
So
the Giants. I think, especially divisional football, anytime between any teams, the outcome is unpredictable. But I think I think the Giants really played a great game, but also the Vikings were just bad, and I
they
think
were
that
bad. It was
that's
a
a big
bad. It
part.
was just a bad game.
I think it's a
It was a bad
50-50,
defensive game.
50-50 Giants good, 50-50 Dolphins are not Dolphins, Vikings bad. But so in the nightcap, obviously AFC North football, Bengals Ravens 24-17. Much closer game than I think I would have expected, but the Bengals come up with the big play, the 98-yard scoop and score, and
I think
I
that
mean,
that wrote it off right there. It was just that scoop and score. I think that set the game off. It was over, and everyone knew it was over. And let's just talk about the elephant in the room, Lamar Jackson. I mean, we can say he was hurt, whatever. Was he really hurt though? Was
well,
he? Did
it,
we
it
hear? Did we all hear what Mike Vick said this morning?
I
Did
didn't
we
hear it.
all hear
No.
what he said? Mike Vick said, "Wrap it up and go out and play."
Well, I think if he that I think it's no question if Lamar Jackson was signed to a long-term deal, he would have played. But I think because his future contract was still in question, that's why he didn't play. I truly believe if Lamar signed to a 5-year, $200 million extension, he no doubt goes out and plays and puts his body on line. But the fact that if he goes out and he gets hurt, and the NFL is, remember when KD played in the finals with the Warriors against the Raptors in 2019 when he was injured for the playoffs and he came back to play that game 5, and then he
Yep.
tore his Achilles and was out for the whole season. He still got a max contract, but that's the NBA. The NFL is way different than the NBA. Health is taken way seriously, and a terrible injury to a player once, and they might not ever be the same. So I think for sure, if Lamar had the contract, he would have played in this game. No
And
doubt.
that
I'm no doubt
and
in my
that
mind.
is exactly where I'm leading to with this game is no one expected the Baltimore Ravens to win. I mean, even if they did win, we didn't want to see them play the next round, No one wanted to see them go forward in this game. No one wanted to see
Yeah,
them go forward in the playoffs because it's one of them things where it's like it's just a waste. You don't have a starting quarterback. You don't have an offense in general. Like
yeah.
you don't have a number one wide receiver. You don't have an all-star running back. You guys
Well,
have absolutely. I'm trying to say this in the best way. They just had
they don't have
nothing
much
that
going offensively.
anybody really wanted to see in the playoffs. They have nothing no one wanted to see in the playoffs. You have no Lamar Jackson. No one wants
And
to see you guys play,
yeah, and
and
even
that's
with all
just a
that stuff,
simple fact.
even with all that stuff you mentioned, I still feel like they kind of outplayed the Bengals, especially in the second half. Like the Bengals went up 9-0, and then after that, Baltimore really was the better team. The only difference was the Bengals. The thing that separates the good teams and the great teams and the championship teams are coming up with timely plays. It's all about in any sport, timely plays. And the Bengals got the most timely play you could ever ask for in this one, and that was the difference. But other than that, I thought the Ravens really outplayed the Bengals.
Yeah, even with Tyler Huntley, their quarterback. I mean,
I mean,
it was too close of a game.
stats wouldn't tell the whole story, but Tyler Huntley, he had more passing yards than Joe Burrow. I mean, who could have ever expected that? Tyler Huntley had he had like 230 or I think around 230, and Burrow only had 207. So, like the Ravens
Yeah,
defense, by all means, did their jobs. The offense, by all means, did a great thing. It was just the fumble. I mean, that's truly is the difference in the game.
yeah. I mean, that was it. I mean, Burrow threw for one touchdown. They ran for one touchdown. I mean,
After they
that
went up
was
nine
all.
nothing, they scored one touchdown. That was it. And they were up
Mhm.
9-0 very early. It was in the first, like it was. I think it was within the first quarter. Within their first two drives, they were up 9-0.
Yeah, and I just think when you have such little offensive help by Baltimore, it's just like
On
I
top
like
of
I
Tyler
said,
Huntley being,
no one wanted to see them in the playoffs. Like that was just it. Like they have a good defense, but it's just a simple fact that they have nothing else.
and
Like
bro, Tyler Huntley truly is a poor man's Lamar. Like he does many things that Lamar does, but he's just way worse than him. He doesn't throw as good as Lamar. He's not as fast as Lamar. He's not as shifty as Lamar.
no, yeah, that's what it is though. They went out and signed a cheaper Lamar Jackson, and because obviously
He
the
is nowhere
offense
near
they just
Lamar,
they
bro.
just
Like
did
he's not
yeah
even
they
close.
just basically did something that was like we got an offense that's built for Lamar. We're gonna go get a guy that's exactly like Lamar, but just not as good, just in case. Like that's all it was.
Yeah.
And I would love to see Lamar Jackson in a Giants uniform next year because he doesn't deserve. Baltimore doesn't deserve him. Let's just be completely honest. I don't care how much hate we
They
get from
needed to
Baltimore
sign him.
fans.
They made their whole team.
Baltimore does not deserve Lamar Jackson,
They
and you
put
guys know it.
they built their whole team around him, and he's the number one focal point.
Just could not pay that man.
When Lamar Jackson plays, Baltimore wins. That's it. Point blank, period. I think he's like 45-16 as a starter. When Lamar plays, they win. And they messed up not signing him. And we're kind of starting to see a pattern right here. Skylar Thompson, Tyler Huntley. Like whenever you have quarterbacks who just are incapable, I guess, it's really affecting teams, especially in these close games where Baltimore had a chance to go down and score at the end of the game. Miami had a chance to go down and score, towards the end of the game. And when you have quarterbacks who are unable to get it done, or quarterbacks, I guess, who are not at some type of level, it shows. Might we see that with a Brock Purdy, who is a third string quarterback, stuff that might come back around and a pattern that might start to form. Because the
Yeah, I
Ravens,
mean,
by all means, should. I think the Ravens were the better team and deserved to win. They just,
yeah,
at the end of the day, they didn't have a
the
quarterback to
Ravens
do
would
it.
have won if they had had Lamar Jackson.
No, if they
Let's
had
just
Lamar,
let's
they won.
just put that out there.
Yeah.
They don't win a game. But it's just a simple fact that you build a team around a guy and you won't even pay him, you guys don't deserve to have him next year.
Yeah, you have
And
no.
that's just a simple fact.
If you have every other team, if you have a quarterback that wins games for you and plays at a high level, as soon as they're able to be signed to an extension, they're signed. No questions asked. Jared Goff got an extension. Like
Yeah, and
we're not talking
the
about like
biggest thing
Lamar
I don't
Jackson's
want
the
to
MVP of the
hear,
league.
the biggest thing I don't want to hear is, oh, the way he plays is he's going to be injury prone
He
because
wins games. He might not win in the
Daniel
playoffs, but
Jones,
like
Daniel Jones run the ball a lot. No
yeah.
one says that about him. He runs the ball the exact same way,
And
right?
Lamar Jackson might be injured here, but he's not like what I think we're agreeing that if he had a contract, he'd play. He's not super injured. He's just like injured and like not
He's hurt.
100%.
Yeah, he's hurt. And that's I just don't want to hear the, oh, well, he just runs the ball too much. He can't keep up that play, yada, yada, yada. Like,
Yeah.
cool, that's whatever. But Daniel Jones does the same thing, and no one says that about his contract. So I just
Yeah.
don't want to hear it no more.
Well,
Pay the man, don't pay the man. But
yeah.
he's going to be on a different team next year.
Bengals versus Bills will be an interesting game though because they're kind of obvious similarities in their wild card game. Played a divisional opponent. You kind of squeaked out a victory against the non-starting quarterback, and you clearly didn't play your best. So we'll see who responds better. Obviously, the game will be in Buffalo, but yeah, I mean, are you worried about the Bengals?
I don't think they're going to beat the Bills. I mean, just a simple
Just in
fact that
terms of their
that game was
performance in
so
that
close.
last game, would you be
Yeah,
worried?
that game was too close. It was just like,
Because
you guys
yeah,
just swept it. I mean, don't get me wrong. They have a good defense though. Like the Ravens have a really good defense. So I
yeah, for
won't.
sure.
I'll say that. But it's just a simple fact that they should have been blown. They should have been blowing them out the water, and it just wasn't blowing them out the water. You know what I mean? But you know, I guess Buffalo didn't blow Miami out the water either. So it's going to be a worrisome game, and more so, it's going to say if one of these teams don't blow each other out, you guys are going to lose to KC.
Yeah, and well, I think I wouldn't be worried about the Bengals and Joe Burrow as much if it weren't for their offensive line. I mean, you heard on the thing they're down to 2 original starters, so it, I would just chalk. Normally, I would just chalk that up to good old fashioned AFC North football. Grit, grind, a dogfight, a real battle. But Joe Burrow's down to 2 starting offensive linemen, and not only do you put backups in, but then you put players who don't have continuity in together. And I think that will hurt them. If it doesn't hurt them against the Bills, it'll hurt them against Kansas City, and then if it doesn't hurt them against them, it'll hurt them against Philly or San Francisco.
Yeah,
I think that's
you
something to
know,
look to down the line.
like I said, I just want to put this out there now. Lamar Jackson will not be a Raven next year. Don't care what none of them Baltimore fans say. One, you guys see football suck. Your football team just sucks. Like it's just as simple as that. Like Baltimore, if it wasn't for Lamar Jackson for the past 3 years, you guys wouldn't even be on the map.
Yeah, I mean,
You guys had no
Baltimore's
quarterback.
defense is good, but without Lamar, it's the Baltimore defense got better as season went on. Without Lamar, they're clearly
Like, I just don't want to hear it no more. I think Lamar needs to go to a different team. Hopefully, just goes to the Giants, and then we don't have to have Daniel Jones. We can have Lamar and Saquon in the backfield.
yeah.
But we don't have the cap room. We don't have the cap space for fucking Lamar Jackson. I tell you that much. He's going to be expensive wherever he goes.
He wants
He's
200
going to get
million.
paid.
Yeah, not for
No, he
sure.
wants more than that.
Well,
He wants
yeah, he wants
guaranteed
Deshaun
money.
Watson money, but he doesn't know Deshaun Watson got paid because the Browns are a desperate team. That
I mean, man, he should have went to the Browns. Imagine what
yeah.
Lamar Jackson would do with that team.
Oh yeah, for
Imagine
sure.
what he would do with what's his name?
Nick Chubb,
No, not Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I'm talking about the
David Njoku,
no, not David Njoku.
Amari Cooper.
Yeah, Mark Cooper. Just look at all the weapons you just named.
Yeah,
Like, just imagine
yeah.
what he would do with an offense like
Well,
that. That's the team he
yeah.
should have been on.
No, that's true. But the Lamar Jackson free agency thing, I think, is a discussion for another time. But yeah, you're right. Baltimore, their inability to sign him in the offseason ended up costing them not only games in the regular season, but games in the playoffs.
Yep,
So
and
all
that's and
boys.
that's exactly what it's going to be, man. I don't see
Yep.
Baltimore going anywhere for the next 3 years if
Well, we'll
that
see
guy
what
doesn't
happens.
come back and play football for them. And
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I'll,
just
I'll
make
be
that statement right
if
now.
Lamar doesn't come back, I'll be sad because it means we'd never get to see Lamar versus Kenny, and I was looking forward to that. I
I
was
mean, but last but not least, of course, we have the best game tonight: the Goat versus the Cowgirls. I'm gonna take the Goat on this one. I don't care what no one says. Tom Brady's he's coming for a reckoning this year. If there's anyone else, if they get the Jazz get knocked off next week, I want the Bucs to go to the Super Bowl. I would just put that out there, just so Tom Brady can win his last Super Bowl and retire. That is all I want.
if the Dallas Cowboys defense plays well today, and if Dak doesn't turn the ball over, the Cowboys will win. However, based off of how Dak Prescott has played recently, I think he will turn the ball over, and that's why I think I'll agree. I think the Bucs will have the upset. I think if Tom Brady and the Buccaneers can stay close, we've seen it this season. We saw it against the Saints. We've seen it throughout Tom Brady's career. They can keep it close throughout the game, and if Dak, because of turning the ball over, and if their defense, because of giving up big plays to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and such, if the Buccaneers can keep it close and Tom Brady has the ball towards the end of the game, I think you obviously have to go with Tom Brady. So I'd also, I mean, I picked the Bucs in this one. You know, the Cowboys they fold in the playoffs. That's just what they do.
That's what they do. I mean, when was the last time the Cowboys had a win in the playoffs?
I think they beat Seattle in 2018 or 2019, I think, but it's still not that wasn't necessarily like a special
Yeah,
win. But one thing I wanted to ask you about this. The Cowboys have a record of, is it 13-4 or 12-5?
12-5.
And the Buccaneers have a record of 8-9. So just what's your take on the Buccaneers getting a home playoff game? I mean, obviously they won their division, but what's your take on that?
It's a little. I mean, win your division like you win your division, and guess what? You get home field advantage.
I
Just
think
if they would have
I
won their division, they would have got home field advantage.
I think that if you have a less than 500 record as a division winner and you play the 5 seed and say the 5 seed is 2 or 3 games ahead of you, I don't think you should host. I think the 5 team should host the playoff game
I mean, that's
instead.
the same thing with the Jags. The Jags were 8-9.
No, the
Or
Jags were nine
were
and
nine
eight.
and
The
eight.
Jags were 9-8. The Chargers were 10-7. That's a little bit better. But the fact that the Buccaneers are 8-9 and the Cowboys
Mm-hmm.
won 12 games and they still have to go on the road, I think they should just put like 3. If it's a 3-game difference or bigger, I think the 5, especially because the 5 seed is going to normally most of the time going to have a pretty good record. I just feel
Yeah,
like the Cowboys won 4 more games than the Buccaneers and yet they still have to go on the road. I don't think it's right.
yeah. I think it's a blessing that you know a division like their division can be so bad, and any team can still make it to the playoffs. So I think that's a blessing as it is, and it's also a blessing that you still get home field advantage after your whole division being terrible the entire year.
I mean, yeah, like you say, like the script is there, right? Everybody talking about the NFL being scripted. Like the script is there. The Buccaneers have the home playoff game. They play against the Cowboys, who fold in the playoffs. Mike McCarthy, who's had some game management issues. Tom Brady, the
And
greatest quarterback of all time. If they
let's
can
look
keep,
at
I'm
it
telling
now. Who would they play if they win next week?
you, they would play they play the Niners. I'd
The
still pick the
Niners.
Niners. I mean, the Niners beat them what 35 to
I
7.
think that's the only game I would want to see Tom Brady play. That's
Yeah,
it. I just want to see
that
them
would
play
be a good one. That would for
because
sure be a
that's
good one.
the
I agree.
Tom Brady wins that game, and I don't think nothing stands between him and the Super Bowl.
I would still pick the Niners. I do not think the I'm not going to sit here and say the Buccaneers will not. I'm not going to sit here and say that with full emphasis because anything could happen as Tom Brady. But if I don't think the Bucs will beat the Niners, I don't think they'll lose by 35 points again. But I don't think they'll beat them. And even if they did somehow get past the Niners, they're not beating the Eagles. And even if they somehow got past the Eagles, they're not beating the team that represents the AFC. So
Hey, we can still go to
the
that
Bucs, they're
Eagles
not. I don't
game.
think they're winning. I don't
We
think they're
can
winning.
still go to the Eagles game. We could have a 4-1-2 press coverage in Philly.
Nah, bro, can't afford it. I'm not on the podcast, bro. Come on.
Dang, he broke on the podcast.
But yeah. So we're both going with the Bucks tonight. What's the score? Give me a score prediction.
score prediction in the Bucs versus the Cowboys. Mm, I'm gonna go
I'm going
high.
20. I'm going 24-21 Bucks. I'm going Cowboys will be leading late and Tom Brady will lead a game-winning drive. And then Dak throws
What's
an
the what's
interception
the
at the end.
what's the over under? What's the over under? You know the over under?
Let me look it up.
Because I could tell what the score is gonna be by the over under. You know, NFL scripting.
Cowboys by 3. Over under 45.5 points.
45.5 Cowboys by 3.
Yeah.
So
They're
what is that?
basically they're
21
basically
and
saying the Cowboys are a 6-point favorite because they give 3 points to the home team. So the Cowboys have a better team than the Buccaneers. The question is, will they be able to get it done in terms of execution, coaching, and not turning the ball over?
so you said 20. I'm gonna say 28 to 24. No. You know what? 28 to 21
Hmm,
Bucks.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could totally see that happen. So do you have it being close later? Do you kind of have it being like a 28-14
It's
Cowboys
gonna be a
score
close game.
late?
I think it's gonna be a
Close
close
game.
all game.
Yeah.
And it's 8:01 as we speak. So we're gonna go ahead in this episode, and we're gonna get to watching that game, and we're gonna see you guys next week. Hopefully, we see you guys from Philly.
Yeah. Shout out, gang.